They said I stole it. A necklace. $9,000. I was still holding the orange juice. It was a Sunday morning, the kind with light wind and no expectations. My little sister Cassidy, 21 Golden Pre-Law, had turned the backyard into a brunch spread. White linen mimosas curated playlist. My mother, Elaine, said it was tasteful but aspirational. My father, Mark, stood by the grill even though there was no meat, just for show like always. I was pouring drinks, not talking much. That was always my place in this family. Marin, older, helpful, quiet. I knew how to stay out of the way. I thought I did. Cassidy tapped her champagne flute with the back of her spoon, dainty, deliberate, and the music paused. I just want to say something real quick, she said. I assumed it would be about grad school, or a boyfriend, or some new fellowship. I wasn't really listening, not fully, because I was trying to fish an ice cube out of someone's mimosa. I didn't look up until I heard her say my name. It's awkward, but I found my necklace, the gold one Grandma left me. It was missing for weeks, and yesterday I found it in Marin's drawer. Silence, 1 second, then 3. A fork dropped onto china. My mother's breath caught just enough for me to hear it. And my father, he didn't even look at me. He just reached for a cloth napkin and started wiping a spot that wasn't there. I didn't take anything I said, but it sounded like I wasn't sure. The sound that came from my mother wasn't a gasp exactly. It was that breath people take when they think they've been proven right. I knew it, she whispered. I knew you'd resent her eventually. That part hurt more than the accusation. Cassidy stood tall, arms folded, face unbothered, like she was doing everyone a favor. I just think it's better we put it out there now, so we can move on. No one spoke. Not my father. Not even Aunt Trish, who never misses a chance to insert herself. The entire backyard buzzed, but none of it came from people. It came from electricity. That moment before lightning strikes. And when I looked down, the orange juice had spilled across the table. I hadn't even noticed my hand shaking. That night, I was asked to leave. No fight, no suitcase. Just a half-zipped duffel bag and a sentence from my father I still remember exactly. You should go, before this gets worse. I didn't cry the night they asked me to leave. I packed what I could into a canvas duffel and sat on the porch steps until my ride came. The air was quiet, heavy with the kind of silence families use when they don't want to say anything true. I left without asking why, because deep down I already knew. At Layla's apartment, she didn't say much, just handed me the spare key and the good pillow. I slept for 12 hours without dreaming. When I woke up, I sat in her kitchen drinking coffee that wasn't mine, wearing a t-shirt that wasn't mine, and realizing something that had been true for a long time. They hadn't just erased me that night. I had been fading out for years. It started slowly. The electric bill, for example. One time, the lights were nearly cut off, and I offered to set up autopay from my account. It was supposed to be temporary. That was 6 years ago. I never turned it off. Then the groceries. Mom would text me every week with a list. Never a thank you. Just a list. Cassidy's tuition came next. A bursar issue, she said. Something about Dad missing a form. I paid the balance online, told them it was from a family scholarship. They never asked who, even the mortgage. When Dad got laid off, I started sending small payments directly to the loan account. I kept doing it even when he went back to work. No one asked why the statement stopped coming. They just assumed everything was being handled. I was the one who handled it. I kept a spreadsheet in my Google Drive called Active Accounts. I used colors. Green for monthly bills, blue for annual support, red for anything late. Every few months, I'd adjust the formula so the totals didn't scare me. I told myself I was helping them stay afloat. I told myself family meant sacrifice. But over time, it started to feel like I was a silent subscription they forgot they signed up for. I remember the day I got my first full-time job. I called my mother excited. She said congratulations, then asked if I could help with Cassidy's books that semester. No pause, no question about how I was doing. Just another request. I said yes, of course. Back then, I always did. There were signs looking back, like that time Cassidy joked at dinner that I was just a background character in her story. Everyone laughed, including me. But the older I got, the more I realized she wasn't joking. That's how they saw me. Supportive, silent, optional. Even birthdays changed. One year they forgot mine entirely. When I brought it up, Mom said, "Oh, I thought we celebrated early." We hadn't. I let it go. That's what I did best. Let things go. But sitting in Layla's kitchen that morning, something hardened in me. Not out of anger, out of clarity. I didn't belong in that house anymore. Maybe I never did. I wasn't their daughter. Not really. I was their system, their safety net, their invisible plan B. And when they didn't need me anymore, or when I stopped playing along, they called it betrayal. So I didn't cry. I made coffee. I opened my laptop, and I started preparing to disappear properly. It started with a text from Cassidy. Just one line, no greeting. "Did you cancel the electricity?" I didn't answer. 3 minutes later, the power's out. The internet's down. I have midterms this week. This isn't funny. Still nothing from me. Then my mother called. I let it ring until it stopped. A minute later, she left a voicemail. I listened to it on speaker, sitting cross-legged on Layla's floor. Her voice was clipped but controlled. "Marin, I don't know what's going on with the bills, but we've been getting calls from the utility companies. The gas is late and Cassidy's tuition portal says she's locked out. I assume there's been some kind of mix-up. Call me back when you get this." She didn't say thank you. She didn't ask if I was okay. Just confusion dressed up as concern. By day 4, the texts started coming from my father. Short, hesitant things. "Hey, just checking in. Cassidy's portal is still frozen. Any chance you're still linked to that?" I didn't respond. Not because I was angry, I wasn't, but because I finally understood what silence could do. How loud it becomes when someone is used to you filling in the blanks. On day 6, I got a bank alert. Someone tried to log into one of the family accounts I had removed myself from. Invalid credentials. A reset request was sent, but they couldn't answer the security question. I had changed it. What color was Marin's first bike? The answer was blue. No one remembered that. On day 8, my mother tried again. This time more direct. "You made your point, but this is childish. You can't just pull away from your responsibilities and leave us hanging. We're still family." I almost laughed. Responsibilities. Not memories. Not love. Not home. Just what I owed. She didn't know. They never knew. That I had been paying for the very air they breathed. The warmth in the walls. The silence in their comfort. And now that it was gone, they were gasping. By day 10, I could tell the panic was setting in. The kind people don't say out loud, but it leaks through their words. I started getting messages from Cassidy's friends, from distant relatives. Vague things like, "Hey, hope you're okay. Your mom mentioned there's been some confusion." Or, "Cassidy said you're going through something. Just wanted to check in." But no one asked what happened. They just wanted me to reset whatever I had turned off. So I stayed quiet. And it echoed louder than any fight we'd ever had. The house was starting to fold in on itself room by room. I imagined them lighting candles in the kitchen, wondering why the fridge hummed 1 minute and fell silent the next. I pictured Cassidy refreshing her tuition portal over and over, as if the system had glitched instead of the girl she built her lies on. No yelling, no drama. Just a slow, crumbling unravel like something left out in the rain too long. They didn't know I was the roof. They just noticed the leak. It came on a Tuesday afternoon when I was halfway through folding laundry and pretending I had moved on. A message from someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Jasmine Rivera, our old neighbor. She lived 2 houses down from my parents, raised 2 boys by herself, and ran a small freelance videography business on the side. When Cassidy and I were little, she used to babysit us after school. She taught me how to tie my shoelaces. She taught Cassidy how to lie without blinking. I almost didn't open it, but the preview stopped me cold. "Marin, I need to show you something. I heard what Cassidy did and I have proof she lied." I clicked. There was an audio file. No explanation. No commentary. Just a play button and a timestamp. I sat down, pressed it, and waited. At first, all I could hear was backyard chatter. Birds clinking glasses, some muffled laughter. Then a clear voice, high and unmistakably Cassidy's. Of course I planted it. I needed people to see her for what she is. Mom always says Marin acts so perfect. Let's see how perfect she looks when she's kicked out. The clip kept going. There was a second voice, one of her friends, giggling. Then Cassidy again. She won't fight back. She never does. That's the point. My ears rang, not because I was surprised, but because hearing it, really hearing it, felt like someone had taken my worst suspicion and dressed it in her voice. I closed my eyes, let the words echo once more. Then I read Jasmine's next message. I was filming slow-motion footage of the garden for a wedding job. My mic caught their conversation by accident. I didn't realize what she said until I played it back. I've already sent it to the dean's office at her college. Someone like her shouldn't get away with this. I stared at my screen for a long time. I didn't respond right away. I wasn't sure what to say. Thank you didn't feel right. Nothing felt right. She had framed me, lied without flinching, watched me get pushed out of our home and felt nothing but satisfaction. And now her own voice had turned on her. I copied the file, saved it to a backup drive, then shut my laptop. No revenge plan, no announcement, just silence. 3 days later, Cassidy went quiet online. Her carefully curated life, the brunch photos, the blessed to be me, captions, the perfectly filtered morning routines all vanished overnight. The comments dried up, her stories stopped, her face disappeared. Whispers started instead, at first just among students, then in department group chats. Then I was told during class, she's the one from the audio. Did you hear what she did to her sister? Honestly, it's kind of sociopathic. The clip made it to a student forum. Someone had ripped the sound and added subtitles. The post said, "Your family's golden child isn't so golden." And still, I said nothing. She was called into a disciplinary hearing, then another. Not just for the false accusation, but for a separate plagiarism case that had been swept under the rug last semester. Apparently, she had used an AI tool to write a term paper and lied about it. This time, no one covered for her. She was suspended. When Layla read me the update, I didn't flinch. I just nodded. They had always protected her, given her the benefit of the doubt even when there was no doubt to give. Now her voice, not mine, had ended the story. And I was still here, still quiet, still standing. After the silence came space. Not applause, not justice. Just space. Enough of it to move again. While Cassidy was explaining herself to student conduct committees, I was working. My manager, Mr. Elias, called me into his office one morning. He was a quiet man, sharp-suited, fond of understatements. I had been with the firm for 5 years, long enough to know when something was changing. He looked at me then at a folder on his desk. "You've been showing up like clockwork," he said, "even when your life's been unraveling. That takes grit." I didn't answer. I never told him anything. But I guess people notice more than we think. He slid the folder across to me. "There's a position opening up in our Denver office. Lateral promotion. More autonomy, better salary. Think of it as a reset button." I opened the folder. The title was real. The salary was real. The relocation stipend was generous. "You don't have to say yes right now," he added. "But I think you've earned the choice." I said yes before he finished the sentence. That night, I packed what little I owned into 3 boxes. 1 suitcase, a new pair of headphones, and a file labeled "Canceled Accounts," which I didn't bother opening. Layla cried a little when I left, not because she was sad, just because she understood what this meant. You never needed them to say sorry, she told me. You just needed somewhere they couldn't reach. Denver was colder than I expected, but the apartment 12th floor, floor-to-ceiling windows facing the mountains felt like the right kind of empty. I didn't decorate much. Just one framed print above the desk, a black and white photo of a woman walking alone across a frozen lake. No caption, just motion. I started filming videos in my kitchen. Nothing fancy, just a tripod, soft light, and my voice. The channel was called Silent Budget. My first upload was titled "They Called Me a Thief." I was the one paying their bills. I didn't name names. I didn't show faces. I just told the truth. About money. About boundaries, about what it costs to be the quiet one. The video reached 10,000 views in 3 days, then 50, then 100. Women started writing to me. My sister did this to me too. My parents used my credit and told me I owed them. Thank you. I thought I was the only one. I started filming weekly. Budgeting tips. Exit plans. Silent financial abuse, a term most people didn't even know existed. Sponsors reached out. A podcast invited me to speak. Someone from a local women's shelter asked if they could use my videos in their program. I said yes to all of it, not because I wanted to be seen, but because now when I spoke, no one looked away. It came from an old number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me pick up. Marin, the voice was slow, warm, familiar in a way I couldn't place until she said her name. "This is Hope, your aunt, on your father's side." I hadn't heard her voice since I was a child. She used to send birthday cards with glitter stickers and $10 bills. Then one year she stopped. My mother said she'd moved away, that she didn't want to be part of the family anymore. Turns out that wasn't the truth. "I've been following your story," she said. "Someone sent me your video, and I think it's time you knew something." I sat down. Not because I felt unsteady, but because there are some truths you don't stand up for. After your grandmother passed, she continued. She left a small trust in her will. It was meant for you. Just you. I didn't speak. I wasn't sure how. "I only found out recently," she added. "I ran into the estate lawyer. He assumed you'd already received it. But when I told him you hadn't, well," he showed me the file. According to the will, the trust was supposed to activate when I turned 21. It was intended to help me start something, a business, a degree, a foundation, anything I chose. The amount wasn't enormous, but it was more than I'd ever had access to. $82,000. Hope told me that after the funeral, my parents requested the lawyer delay contacting me, said I was too overwhelmed and not ready for the responsibility. Legally, they couldn't withdraw the funds, but they could control access to the information, and they did, for 8 years. I don't remember much of the conversation after that, only that Hope gave me the lawyer's contact and told me gently, "It was never about you not deserving things, Marin. They just couldn't stand the idea of you having something they couldn't touch." I filed the paperwork the next morning. 3 weeks later, the funds were transferred into my account. No fanfare, no apology, just a number on a screen and a quiet in my chest that didn't feel hollow this time. That night, I opened the folder where I used to keep receipts and unpaid bills and things I'd promised myself I'd forget. I deleted it. Then I opened a blank document, titled it "What Comes Next." And for the first time, I didn't feel like I had to earn what was already mine. 2 weeks after the trust cleared, I got a text from my mother. Just 5 words. "Can we please talk, Marin?" No punctuation, no apology, just a request, as if none of it had happened. I didn't reply. The next day, Cassidy tried. Her number was blocked, so she sent an email. The subject line said, "Hey." The body was 1 paragraph. She said she'd made mistakes, that people were hard on her after the suspension, that she was working on herself. She ended it with, "I hope you're doing well." I didn't answer that either. I wasn't angry. I just didn't owe her that much anymore. Then came the call from a cousin I barely remembered, one of those family satellites who only orbit when there's gossip to confirm. "I heard you're like famous now," she said. "Mom said you've got hundreds of thousands of followers, that you're helping people." I said I was doing all right. She paused, then asked something that caught me off guard. "Do you think your parents watch your videos?" I hadn't thought about it. But later that night I wondered. Not because I wanted them to see me, but because they'd spent so long pretending I wasn't real, and now I lived in places they couldn't avoid. Shared on timelines, echoed in comments, named in podcast intros, quoted in forums full of strangers who said, "I know this voice. I know this story. I lived it too." Sometimes the algorithm does what memory won't. It brings you back. I imagined my mother sitting at the kitchen table watching my face on a cracked iPad screen she once asked me to pay for. I imagined Cassidy scrolling in bed, pausing when a video autoplayed. I imagined my father hearing my name in a conversation he wasn't part of. Not fame, not revenge, just proof that I had always been here, that I didn't disappear, that they just stopped looking. I live alone now. 12th floor. Quiet building. The kind with slow elevators and neighbors who nod politely but never ask questions. In the mornings, I drink coffee by the window and answer emails from people I'll never meet. They tell me things they've never told anyone about the parents who erased them, the siblings who stole their names, the families who only called when the bills were due. And I listen. I respond. I remind them what no one reminded me. Your absence is not the crime. Their comfort with your silence is. At night, I film. I don't use a script. I just talk. Some videos are short. Others take shape slowly like breath-finding rhythm. I talk about budgeting, about learning to say no, about walking away without a parade, about surviving without becoming bitter. Silent Budget now has over 600,000 subscribers. It's strange how many people needed permission to stop saving people who never saw them. Stranger still, how many of those people are older than me? Mothers, retired nurses, grandfathers who raised other people's children. They tell me, "You're saying what I didn't have words for," and I believe them, because I know what it feels like to go decades without being called by your name in a room full of people who share your blood. I haven't spoken to my parents in almost a year. Cassidy tried once more. A voice message this time. She sounded tired, small. She said, "You were right, you know, about everything." Then she paused. "I don't think anyone else ever will be." I didn't reply. But I didn't delete it either. Some things deserve to be heard exactly once. My Aunt Hope sends postcards now. She signs them in cursive always with one line that feels like a benediction. You're exactly who she hoped you'd be. She means my grandmother, the one who left me something even when no one else did. Some evenings I walk along the river downtown. I wear headphones not for music, but to muffle the world. I watch couples argue, dogs pull leashes, children chase each other through grass. No one knows me here. Not really, and that's the point. I'm not the quiet sister anymore, not the fixer, not the background. I'm just Marin. I was never lost. They just didn't look. And now they can't stop watching.